dreams coming true, and I'm getting to do it with you.
I guess that's a signal to please take your seat. And also, good morning to all of those who have decided to join us online. And I'm still doing my best to get used to this hybrid format, constantly reminding myself I'm not just talking to you here, but also all the people are joining us through Zoom. But first of all, thank you for being here this morning. I think this is just continue what we have been doing and what I say I'm going to do. We'll be transparent. We'll share information. We'll share our thoughts. Sometimes plans, sometimes just thoughts. Okay. And I really, really appreciate. I've been here 7 months, and I get a first front row seat watching how this university actually works and functions. And when I say front row seat, I really mean it, because when you live in a dorm and eat in the cafeteria, you really get to know this university quite a bit. And let me say this, I really, really thank all the people, Sonoma State, staff, faculty, students, for the past 7 months. That's make this period of time, and there'll be more months to come. Very, very busy, event to event, sometimes challenging because a lot of situation that we have to deal with, but also make it very, very satisfying to both me and my wife. And we were treated very warmly from all the faculty, staff, and particularly from the students. When they run into me, they come over and introduce them to me and say, President Lee, I'm Jordan, I'm your neighbor. How many presidents can say that in public? But more importantly, with all the things that we have to deal with, I want to particularly thank all of you. I know we have a lot of continued work have to do with regard to recruitment and retention of students. And I'm very aware that you are all working with way less resources than you used to have, including way less people that you can go to get certain things done. I'm very, very aware of that. And that's particularly why I want to thank all of you, including those staff and faculty who decided to take the voluntary separation incentive program. I want to thank them as well, not only for all the contribution they have made to the university, but for willing to consider doing this and create a little bit of a wiggle room for the university. I want to thank you, and I know they will continue to committed to this institution, and they will come back and help, come back and talk to us whenever there's a good opportunity. So I want to also thank them very well. And so many people to thank. I don't want to turn this into an Academy Award situation, but it could be something similar to that. Our recruitment enrollment people, what a group of dedicated professionals. We have received over 12,000 applications, but very, very quickly they turn it around and also be able to review their file and admit them. We have, for the first time, already have letter out to the admitted students, providing with more than 3,800 scholarships for them to come to Sonoma State. For the first time in a long, long time, we are providing 278 housing scholarships to students from low-income families or students who live far away. Provost, myself, and Elias Lopez, the Senior Associate Vice President for Enrollment, we have traveled down to Los Angeles, met with Los Angeles Community College District that have 9 colleges and the chancellor And that's about 10% of the entire state community college population, over 200,000 students. We are traveling north and south everywhere, reaching out. We have signed agreement with community colleges all around us to provide their student a guaranteed admission for their transfer when they meet all the requirements of us. We are signing agreement with the school districts around us. You have seen in Petaluma, Santa Rosa, Roland Park, Sonoma. We are working very, very closely with the district. When their high school students are able to complete A through G, make them eligible to go to CSU or UC, and they meet all the Sonoma requirements, we will give them guaranteed admission. This is our effort to really, really show that Sonoma State University is your university, and we welcome you to our campus. So all this effort is on top of very successful graduation initiative. We continue to be number 4 in 4-year graduation rate. Close to 50% of our students are able to graduate in 4 years. That is tremendous. The school that I worked for 28 years has a graduation rate of about 24%. You think about that. That's half of what we're able to achieve. Our 2-year transfer graduation rate continue to be number 1 in the entire CSU system. And we have practically no achievement gap among the different ethnic group or socioeconomic backgrounds. That is incredible. And we're so successful, it also creates more challenge in terms of we need to bring in even more students. So that's what we're working on, and I think there'll be more reports come out, but I just want to set the stage for you. I want to thank all of you. And I also want to thank our very good people from the advancement area under the leadership of Mario. I have been meeting with friends of Sonoma State, potential donors, probably 1 or 2 every week to that extent. And I tell you, I have never had to remember so many names in my life. But I'm making it because it's very important. I want to appreciate they really, really set up the opportunity for us to reach out, to share our story with all of them. And I know many of them will come in to support us with our efforts. So I want to set this up so that you understand that what has been happening in the last 7 months, in my view, are very, very tremendous. And I want to thank you. And with this presentation, you get to see where we are. And I hope at the end of the presentation, you know what I know. And at the end, you will have an extended period of time, just like last time. Absolutely, please ask any question. There's no large or small or good or bad questions. I'll be happy, and the team that I have here will be happy to answer them. So let me start this presentation. Have Laura come up here to get you started on the campus budget and planning. Okay, thank you.
Morning, everyone. I'm Laura Lupe, and I'm our Associate Vice President for Budget and Planning. And I'm going to talk today, I'm going to give you the spring budget briefing, which is to update you on all the budget planning that we're doing for the 23-24 year. And I'm going to start with one of the large drivers of our budget planning, which is the state allocation. So in the fall, the Board of Trustees of the CSU put together a budget request and they give it to the state. And the 23-24 Board of Trustees budget request is outlined there on the left-hand column. And for the 23-24 year, they requested an increase from the state of $529.8 million. And this year, the Board of Trustees structured their request to the state a little bit differently than they have in the past. So in the last budget cycle, Governor Newsom put forward a multi-year budget compact with the CSU that said that he would provide a 5% general fund increase to the CSU every year. So when the Board of Trustees put together their request, they put forward what they could do with a 5% increase within the compact, and then what we could do in the system with funding above the compact. So with the funding within the compact, we can provide $30 million of funding to graduation initiative priorities. We can put together a compensation pool for our employees of $92.6 million. We can fund mandatory cost increases for health, for opening and maintaining new facilities, for funding insurance premium increases. And we can also fund strategic enrollment growth across the system, which is also required in the governor's compact. If we receive funding above the compact funding, we can enhance things within the CSU. So we can provide an additional $45 million to graduation initiative priorities. We can grow that employee compensation pool by another $168.4 million and start making progress on staff equity needs. And we can fund other mandatory cost increases like inflation on non-personnel budget lines, and take out bond financing to start doing improvements on academic facility and infrastructure needs. In January, as he always does, the governor released his budget proposal, which was $243.4 million of new base funding to the CSU for the 23-24 year. And you all are very astute, so you can probably see that that is outlined in the right-hand column, and it exactly matches the within compact funding there on the left-hand column. So the governor did stay true to his compact, multi-year compact funding of the 5% increase on general fund funding to the CSU. So you all probably have also heard that the California economy is not growing as quickly as it was last year when the governor put that multi-year compact in place. So it's actually good news that we're getting some growth funds from the governor in the 23-24 year. Some California agencies are remaining flat for the next year, and some are looking at reductions. So it's good that the CSU budget is looking to grow slightly. This is obviously not the kind of budget that the Board of Trustees is hoping for, but it is a good budget growth within the context of the larger California economy situation. So it is still early in the state and CSU planning timeline. We will get another budget. We'll get a budget revision from the governor in May after everybody submits their taxes in April. So we have a better idea of the tax revenues for the state. I don't anticipate at this time that the governor's May revision will look any different than it did in January. This governor has always had the exact same CSU budget in May as he did in January. The legislature, however, does make some changes to the CSU budget. They'll release their budget in June, and the governor will sign it then, and we will get our campus allocations in July. So my office, the campus, will be looking closely at the how that works over the spring and summer, and the chancellor's office will be advocating heavily for CSU priorities throughout that entire timeline. So even though the state and CSU planning does have an impact on our budget, there's a lot of work that we can do on campus in the meantime that we have been doing. So we all know that we've been operating in a budget deficit for the last several years, primarily due to our decline in enrollment. In these situations, it's very important that we plan ahead dealing with that deficit. And so we've also been looking at a multi-year planning timeline. So I'm going to talk now about our 23-24 campus budget, look at our multi-year plan, and I'm going to start by looking at the second large driver of our budget, which is our enrollment. So this is our multi-year plan, planned enrollment. This is our annualized headcount that we have put into our multi-year budget plan. So if you look at the 22-23 year, which is the second data point on there, we plan to have 6,271 heads for this current year. That's how much we budgeted for this year. We came in slightly under, and then we are looking at going down again next year. The 23-24 year should be our lowest year for headcount and FTES, and that's because we are graduating our last large class this spring, May 2023. We don't yet know what our class will be in fall 23, but we do know that it'll be smaller than the class that we're graduating this year. It should be the last time that we have a smaller class incoming than we have outgoing. And then we're going to reverse that trend. We're going to start having larger incoming classes than we have outgoing classes. So what that means is we'll start to grow again. So you can see that trajectory here on this slide. And with more growth comes more tuition revenue, which you'll see the effect of as we move forward into our multi-year plan. So this slide represents our multi-year budget. The blue line is our revenue and the orange line is our expenses. So if you look at the prior year and the current year, which are the first two data points, we have higher expenses than we have revenue. When you have that, you have a deficit, which we all know we've had, and that's not the sign of a fiscally healthy organization, right? You want to have your revenues higher than your expenses. Otherwise, you have a deficit. That's not great. So as we start moving forward in time, though, you can see that that gap is starting to close. And that's because we're starting to put into effect the multi-year revenue increases and expense reduction strategies that we started talking about here in the fall, and that the president, Provost Moransky, and Vice President Ahmed are going to talk more about in a few moments and give you updates on. It's also a factor of the increases in enrollment that I just talked to you about as well. As we start to reverse that trend and grow our headcount again, we get additional tuition revenue, and that grows our revenue, obviously. So we start closing the gap in 23-24, and with the goal to eliminate the deficit in 24-25. So in the current year, 22-23, as we talked about at the fall forum, we had a base deficit of 13.9 million. We balanced this year's budget using one-time funding sources like our reserves and our roll forward funds. So because that was a base deficit and we resolved it using one-time funds, we knew that that was our starting point for our base budget in this current year. We also had some revenue losses, such as current decreasing enrollment for the 23-24 year, and other expense increases that factor into our planning for 23-24, which have increased the deficit for 23-24. We're currently projecting a deficit for 23-24 in the base of about 15 to 17 million. Our current multi-year budget plan eliminates that deficit by 24-25, as directed by the Chancellor's Office memo that we received last fall that we've talked about around campus already. So the strategies that we're working on across campus to both increase that revenue and decrease expenditures are what's going to eliminate that deficit over the next year and the 24-25 year. For example, we did the voluntary separation incentive program, which I'm going to call VSIP, so I don't have to say it too many times, and vacancy position pool, which we've achieved through holding those positions that we've had through attrition, retirements, that sort of thing. And we have identified positions that we will not be rehiring that total 5.2 million. Those will be eliminated, and the salary and benefit savings will offset that deficit. So we have 5.2 million to reduce the deficit for the 23-24 year. And that's how on the previous slide, that deficit starts to shrink. So we know we're not going to fully close the deficit for 23-24. So we will still need to identify one-time funds to balance the budget for next year. Again, things like reserves and prior year roll forward. We are still in the middle of our campus planning timeline as well. Divisions are finishing up their budget call. It's due tomorrow. They're looking at their own resources. We all know that areas are losing positions, so they're looking at how they can use the resources that they have to still achieve our priorities and their mission. And so, and we're continuing campus conversations about the challenges and opportunities that we have. So, and we'll keep paying attention to state planning, chancellor's office planning, and updates to other assumptions we know, like especially how enrollment's looking for fall. So that's the update that I have for you today. We have more information available on our website, budget.sonoma.edu. Our campus budget plan for the current year is available on there through our open book transparency portal. We also have the fall forum available. The live stream there is available. And this recording of this forum will be available in the next few days as well. And as always, you can email me or my team with any questions. So I hope that this has been helpful and informative. I'm going to turn it over to the President, Provost Moransky, and Vice President Ahmed to talk a little bit more about our multi-year planning strategies. Yes, and thank you so much. We'll give you those.
All right. It's not working, right?
You can hear us. Okay.
You can hear it?
Mhm.
Okay, good. Thank you, Laura. Appreciate it. I think, so here you have it. But let me start by giving you a kind of very high level view. And this is a view from my position. Look at where we are, okay? So when I came in 7 months ago, we have over $14 million of structural deficit, largely because of the enrollment situation. Again, a simple way, as I said it last time, to think about it, and again, I'm not trying to monetize student at all. For each student that comes through the gates of Sonoma State, it will bring in tuition and fee about $5,500. And when that student is now walking into our campus to be a student, we are not able to get the $5,500. So think about it, from the peak of 2018, where we have 9,300 students, to today, we have a little bit over 6,000. You can do the math, how much that means. And in a way, we are very lucky because the CSU system had not taken away money from our budget, even for the shortfall in terms of enrollment. Because our state funding from the Chancellor's office continue to stay at a higher level, not at this current day enrollment levels. I just make sure that you keep that in mind, because that's connected to what a system is going to do if our enrollment is not able to get back to a high level. So what we are dealing with, from my viewpoint right now, and I'm just giving it to you. I know I'm not trying to, dress it or I'm trying to, send a depressing message. I'm simply telling you what it is and what we are going to do about it, okay? So with the $14+ million we have to deal with, and that's why we put together a multi-year plan that I share with you, and then we share also, after getting feedback from a lot of people, we put together a plan, and then we share that also with the Chancellor's office, and then we went ahead and started to implement it. The very first significant measure, of course, is the VSIP. And again, we have 49 staff and faculty who decided to take that option. Not all of them are state funded. So therefore, the impact on the budget is roughly about a little bit over $5 million. And that is not close to where we had planned for, because our original plan is hoping to get about 9 million from there. And again, keep in mind, we don't have a lot of wiggle room here because 80% of our expenses are personnel. So it's almost impossible to balance the budget without touching the personnel at all. That's just not possible. Even with all the things we're doing, for example, including we are terminating, if possible, any lease contract that we have. So we bring in people back to campus so we don't have to pay rent. And we'll be getting that pretty quickly, including moving our summer from the state side over from the self-support to the state side over this year, next year, in order to also help us increase the enrollment number. We are reviewing the use of buildings to look at if there are any opportunity allow us to consolidate classes or office space so that we don't have to do 100% maintenance of all the buildings, even when they are of very little use. So we're doing everything we can, but it's still not quite able to get us to the target. So right now, we are reviewing options for reorganizing certain units, reorganizing certain functions. And we are reviewing possibilities, and we may have to take some actions in that regard in order to generate more possibilities for us to save. Okay, but I will continue to make sure that we are doing in a caring manner as much as we can. I mean, I absolutely totally understand we are dealing with your career, your future. So I always have that in mind. So we will try our best to make sure that we minimize that. But I have to say that there will be impact on how you work, how much you work. So we'll constantly have to review the impact of that and make sure that we are able to continue. But I just want you to know that's what we are dealing with. And right now, CSU is in contract negotiation with a number of unions. A very, very important topic is the step increase for the staff. Okay. And as you can see in the governor's proposed budget, he did put in some money for compensation increase. But when you take a look at the money and spread it across all people who work at CSU, it's only 1.some%. And nobody can be satisfied with 1.some% increase. I totally understand that. So as a matter of fact, last week, Provost and myself were in Sacramento in the Capitol doing the CSU Budget Advocacy Day. We met with 2 senators' office and then 4 assembly members. And I have the double role of advocating for the CSU budget, but I also took the opportunity to talk about Sonoma State. And a priority I asked the assembly members and senators to do is that if possible, if the budget situation open up opportunities, I ask them to please add more dollars for compensation. You know, our faculty, our staff needs to be paid properly. And I asked them to do that. Again, I have no idea whether or not there will be any impact, but I simply know that I have to say that. And nobody knows what could happen. I think it's important that they know where our priorities are. So once the negotiation had come to a conclusion, we need to be prepared to pay for that, because we cannot not pay our staff and faculty. So there will be some impact on our budget again. And if Karen gonna go into a little bit more detail in terms of the chancellor's plan, because right now, the entire CSU system this year had a 6% decrease in enrollment. That had not happened before. I've never seen it. So you get every campus now interaction. So by the way, if you have friends or your own children want to go to CSU, this is a perfect time to get into CSU. You got a lot more choice, you got better opportunity. And of course, hopefully, more students who choose to go to college come to CSU. That would be very, very helpful as well. So it's forced this chancellor's office to put together a plan where they are trying to allow campuses now have very high demand. Students are signing up to go to the campus, be able to get a little bit more resources to do that. In the meantime, they are going to, well, I put it as a way as trying to encourage campus like us, and there are 7 of us or 8 that are below target to work hard to bring in the enrollment up. So they put together a plan that starting in 24-25, will be put into different categories and then be given different goal. And if we are not able to reach that goal, there'll be some of our budget dollar be taken away. Okay, but let me remind you, this is if the systems office were to take back the delta between our target enrollment and what we actually perform, it'll be way harsher than what you see in this plan. But we have to prepare for it. We have to prepare for it. So what I have done is that between VSIP and the vacancy, we have 94 positions about a couple of months ago. And I have decided, it's my decision, that given the situation, I have to hold back the positions and allow me and the cabinet to review each one of those. And I asked each of the VP to send me a rank list of positions that they want to hire because it's necessary, critical, important for continuity of business. And I review, I discuss with every one of them and then make a decision. We ended up releasing about, I believe about 30 positions because they are absolutely necessary, and including faculty position. Okay, faculty is also very, very critical to the mission of the university. So we are going to continue to hire faculty member. But I am taking a risk. Let me just be very, very honest with you. Because by releasing those 30 positions, we are not quite closing the gap. But as I reviewed the list back and forth, again and again, I realized we have already cut quite a bit. And I do not want this university to go even deeper. So I'm putting my hope on really, really hanging tough in this year, next year, and hoping that all the effort that we put in enrollment retention will start to pay off. Maybe not this year, because this year we are graduating 2,500 students. Just think about it. We have 6,100 students, and we are graduating 2,500.
37%.
I'm very happy. I'm very happy about our accomplishment, and I absolutely do not want to sacrifice student graduation as anything. So let's continue to do the right thing. Our option is to bring in more students, cast a wider net, do whatever we can to bring it. So this year, probably still going to be difficult, but I do see the hope. Next year and the year after, we should be able to start to see. It's also the time, excuse me, I've been talking a lot these days, you can imagine. We're also seeing the market start to turn around. And a very good sign, for example, community colleges in California, in the last 2 years, have lost almost 20% of the students. But this year, it started to turn around. In the Los Angeles area, we have seen a 7% to 15% rebound of the enrollment. But keep in mind, community college student takes 2 years to get to us. Excuse me. So you're going to see a little bit lag of this. But excuse me. I continue to be hopeful that we'll be able to start to see that. But the next couple of years, it's not going to be easy. Okay. So So I guess now I set the stage. I'll let Karen to or Manita.
Gonna go back. Okay. We are getting him some water. All right. So the president briefly talked a little bit about what I'm going to cover, but this is sort of the when we talk about strengths and weaknesses, opportunities and threats, this is kind of the concerning slide for us. And what it means is that the chancellor's office has put out a reallocation memo. And that memo calls for kind of right sizing our budget with our enrollment over time. And what that means is we lose allocation, we lose revenue. So we don't get as much allocated to us from the chancellor's office. And that process is scheduled to begin in 24-25. So actually in fall of 24, we start to lose additional revenue and allocation. And so that's the chart that you see. So I have my problems with groups X, Y, and Z and the labeling of those. We're in group X. And X does not mark the spot where the treasure is hidden, unfortunately. So group X is the group of institutions in the CSU that are below target. The 7 or 8 institutions, there are more kind of falling into that category every semester. But we're in that group. And what it means is that the chancellor's office is planning to sweep 5% of our allocation each year that we are under target. Remember that our target is about 8,400 FTES, right? So it's around 9,000 head count. And so when we come in low, and if we come in low for 24, they're going to take the budget. And so that increases the budget deficit for us. So that's why there's so much pressure on us to eliminate the deficit that we have now and to increase enrollment. Now, I do want to say that we're operating in a very difficult situation, competitive situation and demographic situation in the state of California and nationwide. The enrollment cliff has hit California. And what that means is that there are fewer students reaching high school graduation. There are just fewer of them. There are fewer high school students. And so when that declines, that number declines, our catchment pool is smaller, right? We have a smaller pool to work from, and institutions are all trying to get those students to come to their campus. And so we really need to be clever. And as the president mentions, Elias Lopez and his team are doing everything they can to be extraordinarily clever. We just this week sent out 4 MOUs to 4 districts in our area, high school districts in our area. You may have seen the press release about the signing of the Petaluma MOU, the Petaluma Promise. Those promise programs or MOUs offer guaranteed admission to students who meet the criteria for admission to the CSU. So that A to G requirement. And that's great because it encourages students to meet those requirements. Remember that the A to G completion rate in Sonoma County is only about 30%. In Santa Rosa, it's 16%. In the Cotati Roner Park School District, it's 25%. very few students are meeting the minimum eligible requirements for the CSU. And that creates a problem, right? Because if your high school population is already down, and then only 25% of those students are eligible to be admitted, you've got you get a smaller and smaller and smaller pool. So anything that we can do to encourage students to be prepared is something that we're trying. So those MOUs are critical. And as are the follow-through actions that we need to take to help students to see finishing, getting ready for college, being college ready as important, right? You've got to incentivize those students to understand why it's important to go to college or to be ready for a four-year college, especially in an age where college is a questionable thing, right? They're hearing in the news that companies will hire them without a college degree. True, that's true. Those students then get into low-paying jobs where they can't rise because they have not got a college degree. And so they end up getting stuck. And it's really our job to help students to understand that for long-term prosperity for themselves and their families, a four-year degree is still the most valuable credential that they can have. But there are lots of different pathways to do that, which is why in the academic master planning process and in conversations all over campus, we're talking a lot about stackable credentials. We're talking about certificates, ways to get people into college that don't look like that onerous, tough four-year degree, so that they have a chance to really grow into that college education. So it's we have also been working with community college districts to get those students guaranteed admission. And that in combination with some of our scholarship programs, some of our outreach to the community colleges for pathways and to high schools and middle schools for pathways, we have to build our population. We also have to reach out to non-traditional students, veterans, international students. So we're developing a plan for international recruitment right now. And we also have a yield plan, because we get 12,000, 13,000, 14,000 applications and we yield 10%. Right? That's our problem. And that's the area we need to really work on. So we have 53 faculty this spring, who are working on outreach activities to our admitted students. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That makes a huge difference. We have alumni and staff making phone calls. Everybody's pitching in, and I'm very grateful for that. So that's kind of the enrollment situation right now that we're working towards, which is, maximizing our yield, maximizing our enrollment from a dwindling pool of high school and perhaps community college graduates. We'll have to track and see what community college enrollments do over the next couple of years. So that's where we are. And then I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, or actually we're going to share this slide. Monir, you want to start?
Thank you, Karen. I've been here for about a year, slightly over a year. Most of you, I have an opportunity to see either in person or virtually at one form or the other. I'm Monir Ahmed. I'm the Vice President for Finance and Administrative Services, and I oversee budget. But I do want to clarify something here. If you haven't already picked up of the job that we have to do to deliver things on campus, the provost holds the key. I just keep count of it, right? Everything lands with enrollment. So, and it is true. I also want to thank for faculty, staff, students who have attended the CSU Advocacy Day and continues to advocate for our state to pay more and more attention to the CSU as a whole. As we all know, higher education have been the backbone of the state's economy. It will continue to be. This is the way to lead not only within the state, but the nation and the world. So we thank you for continuing to advocate for the resources that we all need, right? I also want to recognize that this year, I think from one of the things that is bringing students important to the campus, but is as much important to keep them until they graduate. I want to especially reach out and thank our Vice President, Dr. Jones, his area this year for giving us the highest retention from fall to spring this year at 96%. Along with Provost help, the team have really done an amazing job calling every individual students who haven't registered to bring it in. These are the things that this campus deserves to take pride on, right? The other part I just want to clarify is when we are talking about the enrollment, the two parts of that enrollment that ties to the budget, we get about 52%, give or take some year over year from the state appropriation. We get about 48% from the tuition and fees, that is excluding the self-support like the housing and the dining and so forth. So when state is continuing to support the CSU and the CSU has continued to provide us funding up until now based on our target, not our actual, the piece we are missing is the 48% of lacking the student enrollment there, right? And this is what creates our current budget gap. This is what we're trying to manage. The other thing, before we open up for a question and talking more about it, I want to take you to a bit of a broader perspective back to what Laura was sharing, that governor has continued to support CSU, have pledged to support CSU in the final phase of the budget process. When the legislature goes and negotiate in June is when the budget final number comes in. And the things they look at, whether to support, in some years, they have actually increased what governor has proposed, the legislature to the CSU fund. Other years they have decreased. The things they look at, the state is looking at somewhere between 25 to $28 billion projected revenue shortfall. And currently, as of this week, the Department of Finance have sent out notices to different agencies, excluding CSU and UC, but other state agencies, of their approved budget that has not been committed yet. So the budget have been approved for the current fiscal year. They haven't spent it to return the money. So that's a serious issue. This is, you think you have the budget and it's approved and other pulling back. So we are very fortunate. We are very thankful that our legislature, our governor, and everybody appears to support and understand the importance of higher education. And we really should be thankful for that. While we are continuing to steadily grow our enrollment and find ways to close the budget, there are other things also happening on campus that most of you may have seen and continue to see that we can do in the meantime, both in the way of one time taking care of the campus needs and setting up for success for the long term. One of the things that I have shared, I think most of you know, that the Chancellor's Office, not only with our appropriation for the state fund tied to the enrollment, but in other areas continues to support us. We have received $12 million funding for our energy initiative. We have received $42 million funding for our water infrastructure on campus. Coupled with those, we hope the campus, as we launch our solar initiative, the campus will be somewhere between a third to half of its energy independent of the grid. What that means is not only are we becoming more sustainable, but we are also looking forward to stabilize energy pricing. We wouldn't see as much of a fluctuation in energy rate. And every year, in today's dollar, we are projecting about $200,000 a year reduction in our energy bill. If you put this to the people, it's about 2 FT equivalent. right? So we continue to look for ways how we can add value, how we can prepare campus better when the good days start rolling back and the student comes in.
Mhm.
So
So we're involved, engaged in a multi-year planning process, and we want to get to your questions. There are no, there's no shocking revelation. You have everything that you've had for the last year, in terms of knowing what we're working on. We're working on workforce reduction and realignment, shared services, helping to alleviate the problems with more work and fewer people, by sharing some services. We're trying to increase our residential tuition revenue and our housing occupancy, and summer revenue, which doesn't relate directly to the state budget, but it helps bring in revenue that can be used for our costs as a campus. And then we're trying to really prioritize facilities and ground maintenance, which was the president's comment about really trying to figure out how we can operate and clean fewer spaces on our campus. Facilities has lost 20.
yeah, it came from 45 down to 19.
45 to 19 facilities workers and over the last year or two. And that just means we have to prioritize. We are also, as the president said, moving summer to stateside. We're looking, we have an academic master planning process and a reorganization process that intersect. And so we're going to be looking at reorganization of our academic enterprise. We have to. I don't have those solutions yet. We're going to have conversations about that, because we need ideas for the best way to do that in the least disruptive and most creative ways possible. And so we're working on that with both academic master plan and through thoughtful reorganization. And then, we're doing what we can to increase grant revenue and increase donor contributions so that we can be better able to do what we need to do. And our goal is to protect the academic core of the institution, because we know that's what's going to help us to bring in enrollment and to graduate our students in a timely way. So I think we should stop and take questions.
Well, by the way, thank you very much for giving me the water. I'm so touched. So now you know what is occupying my time and energy when I'm in the dorm room or in my office. We certainly have a lot we have to do, but I have so many meetings with legislators, alums, friends, supporters of Sonoma State, and students. The community continue to have very high level of confidence and trust in us. And as I look to the alums, the current students, and the future students, I continue to remind myself that we really, really owe it to all of them and to all of you to continue to be able to hold this place together despite all the difficulty and challenges. And that's what I signed up for. And I do intend to see it through. I think we can do it. I think there's sufficient of you who are smart, who knows what to do, who's committed. We have a lot of friends out there who are willing to support us. I'm a brand new president on this campus, and already for example, our fundraising, about half a year, we already reached half a year's goal. Almost $6 million being raised. Somebody, Mike Lee, I mean, who's this guy? Coming from Sacramento. But they are confident enough to put their heart and dollar in us. has taught me a lot about the trust and confidence in us. And I want to continue that. And I think, let me say it one more time, this couple of years is not going to be easy, but I look forward to the days when we start to stabilize and then bring back the students to the campus. And it needs a lot of work. And I'm also urged on the academic side, please look at what are the majors, the programs the student want to come here for, so that we are able to design, develop programs and measures that really, really meets their need and give them a future so that they are very, very willing to come to us. So I think a lot of things have to happen, but I look forward to the day that we can start to build back this campus. But that has to be strategic. We need to make sure that all the new money that's coming in are able to put to the area that really gonna make a difference and build a stronger and better Sonoma State. So now I think I don't want to take too much time. You know, like I said, as much as I know, and I'm happy. If you have any question or any suggestions, how we can do about this, how we can get to that better place, we are all ears. We are here to listen.
Anyone online, if you have audio issues, feel free to put that in the chat, and we have volunteers for monitoring those chats.
Can you hear a microphone?
This is a question that I don't know if you're going to be able to answer because it's about the suite from the chancellor's office. Was there a rationale given for that 5%? And again, it might not be something that you're able to answer, but it just seems so clear that there are demographic and regional reasons for who is in that spot that I'm not sure a threat of a deficit of a budget cut helps. It actually feels more like blame and punishment for what is, what I see is really hard work that people are doing. And so were you able to glean what the rationale was, whether it was a good for the whole system as a whole, or just to punish? Because it doesn't feel good.
Let me take that question. I don't have a good rationale, as you can imagine my position. But I was in a number of meetings where this plan was presented, and the last one was as a board of trustee meeting in January. Even one of the trustees have asked the same question you ask. Why are you taking money away from the campus who now desperately need it to bring the student and retain them? And actually, all the presidents, including myself, who are in that potentially X group with a bullseye on our money, have said repeatedly and very strongly, this is the wrong way to go. Even the campuses that are not suffering from decline are also saying that is not the way to do. And I will continue to say what I have to say. Okay. Now, whether or not this is a done deal or not, I don't. That's why I am taking the risk of not particularly trying to cut too deep to address that. But if it gets to that point, we're gonna have to put together something. I can show you this campus, even though we are getting slimmer, we will try our best to find a way to help us get there. Like I say, it could come down to a timing issue. Like I say, with all the things that we put together, we are potentially going to see another smaller number, but next year we're going to see it higher. Particularly with the summer coming to stateside, that will instantly add a few hundred FTS. And then with all the measures we put together and the rebound of this community college student population, we're likely to see a year from now, we start seeing a better number. So it could come down to that. What can we do? What can we put together to allow us to help us get through this next couple 3 years? I think, again, we'll continue to do that. At the end, I don't hold a key to the treasurer of the CSU, but we'll continue to make an argument. I think you are thinking the right track, and I hope more people can share that as well. Okay.
The next question comes from Zoom. It says, do we have any metrics on the efficacy of recruitment efforts? The projection to reach 9,000 students in the allotted time span seems aggressive.
Right. Yes. Yeah. No, I think it's a really good question, and there are two questions embedded in that. The first is, are our recruitment efforts working? And there is some evidence that our recruitment efforts are beginning to pay off. So our spring enrollment, for example, our new student spring enrollment came in at over goal. So that was a good sign. It means that the scholarships worked. It means that the really hard-paced work that enrollment management is doing to outreach to those prospective students is working. It means that the connections with the community colleges are working. And our, our admitting students by January was a really important metric. I can't tell you how important it is to admit students early. Sonoma State was excelled at that this year, way ahead of other campuses. And so that's a good sign, because the earlier we admit, the earlier we can get out financial aid and scholarships, the earlier we can get commitments from students. And so we're all kind of waiting to see what fall is going to bring, because that will tell us whether our yield plan is having some impact. It'll tell us whether our scholarships are having some impact. It'll tell us whether outreach from faculty, staff, and enrollment people is having some kind of impact. But let me be honest, I do not think that we will get we'll see huge numbers in the fall in terms of increase. I'll be happy with an increase over this past year. So let's set our expectations realistically. And that's what the president is saying, that this year, this next year is going to be another tough year for enrollment, both continuing and new, as we build back.
Let me quickly say what I see as a relatively new person to the campus. What I have seen that has been happening this year versus the year past. Number one, we have brought in at least 3 or 4 times our student tour of the campus and their parents. I hope you notice that. Okay, every single day, I have a very good student friend named Zach, have a very loud voice. Yes. The first time I heard it, in my office, I saw there's a fight down there going on. It turned out it's Zach, our very good friend Zach, and he's graduating this year. So we're gonna miss his very enthusiastic introduction of the campus. So we have 3 or 4 times more people touring the campus. And I know as a fact, when they come to our campus and see what we offer, when they see how our professors teaching in the classroom and how they care about the student, they come. That's the first one I see the difference. Number 2, 3,800 President's Scholarship sending out. Right. For those of you who are parents, when you see that letter that your daughter or son have just received a very honor from the president of the university, you got to give it a little bit more consideration. It's more than just the money. It's really about the recognition of the work. 3,800, we have never done that. And I hope that it start to pay off and be able to bring very good students to us. 278, I want to thank Housing and Student Affairs. Thank you. Put together a package, allow us to send 278 admitted students a housing scholarship equivalent to about 1-2 months of rent that they come here. And when we travel in LA, I did a very quick calculation. I say, if a student come to us is willing to work 15 or 20 hours a week with the pay that we are paying our student employees, they can pay for the rent and eat in the cafeteria. Even they come from LA or San Diego or Central Valley. It's affordable. I think we need to absolutely break the myth that's expensive. It's doable. But of course, they have to work and they have to study hard. Okay. But it's doable. So that's the second thing I see as very different. Number three, all the regional efforts we have with all the schools in our area and all the community colleges. I personally met with several community college presidents, actually over almost 20 of them in person,
Right.
talking about Sonoma State. And they share with me that in the past, they have not heard much from us. Now we even have LA Community College want to do a Sonoma State Day just to promote this university. People are showing a lot of support for what we're doing. And what we're doing with all the high schools, another major impact. It gets on the news. Parents are excited about it. Every time I go out in the community, I talk about it, I get applause. It's almost like you should have done this a long time ago. So those are the things that are very, very significant that I see. And I think over time it start to pay off. After all, this is a very, very good and unique university. I cannot think of the second one in the entire CSU system. It's our job to market it. Another difference, number 4, is how much investment we're putting in marketing this year. We have a nationally known marketing consultant right now helping our enrollment people to reach out to the students who already get admission. We are putting in significant number of dollars to do social media marketing. This is an effort so that when anybody search for Sonoma State, the message from us gonna come up, tell them what we do, what we offer. So these 5 things are something that we have not done before, significantly different from past. And we are doing a lot of tracking to see how well that they respond to all the different measures. Right now, we know scholarship make a difference.
Right.
And we are hoping with that large number, we start to see the return. And I want to here again, thank Kelly for all those tools. And the parents and students coming to our campus, even have Neil back there have single-handedly enroll 1 student coming to the next day. I mean, he personally took it on to take the parent and the son to our campus. By the end of the day, say, I'm coming to Sonoma State. That's the kind of effort that will make a difference. That will make it. So again, like I say, we have a lot of metrics that we can track this, but we also have a lot of things that's happening that are so different from what we used to do. Okay.
Neil, did we answer that full question?
I believe you did.
Okay. Let's see. We've
I
got,
have another online question and then we can take some in the
Sure.
room. Is it possible to share a list of vacated positions that will not be filled so staff and faculty know where the holes are?
Let me see if I can answer. The list is available in a way of function and departments, not necessarily individual, because the entire, as we shared multiple times, the entire process of delivering services are being re-looked at. So many of the positions that we have let go is not necessarily uncovered. They're merged into other processes and functions in every area in a way of either realigning the programs, creating shared services opportunities, redrawing the existing desk, partnering with system-wide offices for broader shared services and so forth. So there is no one-to-one correlation, so to speak, that a position has been vacated and what is that function and so forth.
That's
The name of the
yeah.
people, by the way, it's a privacy issue and so
Yeah,
forth.
let's work with HR and see what we can share. Okay, yeah, but certainly keep in mind the privacy as well. If there's any confidential as related to personnel, we need to be careful about. But as much as we can share. Okay. Yeah.
Hi, thank you for this update. I had a question about some of the things that were brought up as strategies previously, like, I was kind of hoping for some updates on those things, like the reduction in rental costs. Are we doing well in that regards? Are we meeting whatever objectives we had in reducing rental costs now?
Thank you. So one of the items that we've been talking about, we mentioned, is we have some offsite facilities that canceling the rent and bringing the campus units on campus. And one of the lease that we terminated is for SEIE. The staff will be coming to the campus, and we're in the process of finding space and allocating them. So yes, they are each of these metrics that we are monitoring. Budget Office has a tracking sheet, and we hope to report as they're achieved into the total numbers that has been achieved. Similarly, on the revenue side as well, we have set actually a goal for our summer session to be, the summer conferences to be higher, 10% by higher than last year. I believe we are. I believe at least from a issuing of the contract, we are there until the summer is complete. We don't know that we have actually received that, but we're on target.
Okay, thank you. And unrelated question, but sort of related, is some of these ideas of increasing enrollment, like certificate programs and new programs that would serve us. I think most aspects of new programs are on hold currently, waiting to see the end result of the academic master planning process. Is there thoughts in sort of making the academic master plans timelines maybe align better with some of these CSU-wide initiatives to say this is when the target, the enrollment 24-25 kicks in, to say how can we, are we aligned, all those timelines?
It's a good question, and there are a couple of responses. One is that even if we're holding on major program changes for the academic master planning process to do its work, especially this spring, that doesn't stop anybody from talking about certificates, talking about majors, talking about changes to majors. There's no delay on talking. So I would encourage those conversations to be happening. If they're not, they should be, so that we can be ready as soon as, and we can bring those ideas into the academic master planning process. The academic master planning process, so you have to think about all this in the context of the speed with which higher education works. So the academic master planning process is actually a very fast process. Most academic master planning processes take 3 to 5 years. We're doing 1.5 years. So we should look at it in the context of the speeding up that we're already doing with the academic master planning. And yes, we're very conscious of that 2024 kind of time slot where the chancellor's office is going to be reviewing what we're doing. We're not going to be able to ramp up huge numbers of new majors or certificates or credential programs over the next 18 months. It's going to take a couple of years to get those programs through. Anything that we can do on our campus to speed up the process by which those are reviewed and approved would really help in being responsive to those deadlines. So I hope that we can really look at our processes and find ways to be nimble and flexible as we move towards those deadlines. So those are my thoughts about that. It's a great question, Mark. Thank you for asking it.
I have a question over here.
Hi, good morning. Thank you again for the updates. I have a question about the VSIP. The report that we have about 49 or 47 faculty and staff who took advantage of the VSIP. My question is, what's our expectation in terms of who will be covering the staff and faculty workload in light of those people who are expected to be leaving Sonoma State? And my second question pertains to the slide that says that reassigned time is still in the process of being decided. In the CFA, we have received reports that some academic departments are not being allocated the resources for the departments to be able to run the existing programs that they have. So effectively, that's already what was supposed to be decided later on. So I wonder, what's the update on that?
Thank you, Nap. So let's two questions. Let me answer the first one related to staff, the VCP, and then Karen will try to answer the assigned time question. I asked Laura to bring this slide back up. As you can see, we have identified the FTE that is being reduced by division by areas, somewhat aligned to the function. And in our conversation earlier, we shared how we are trying to cover this. Keep in mind that when we have fewer foots on campus, in certain areas, maybe there are less work. In other areas, there may not be. For example, we have the same campus size, square foot wise, today as we had 9,300 students. But we have now reduced the staffing, facility services, and building services engineers, in custodians and so forth, because the revenue is tied to the enrollment, not the space. The way we are trying to mitigate is what the president and provost mentioned, that looking at redefining how we use a building so that we still can maintain the quality expected for those spaces. Similarly, in various other areas, we are looking at function by function, how to deliver if the scope remains same or identical at a comparable level, the services, and that's where comes the shared services idea. That's where comes the partnership with the chancellor's office and automation and so forth. So none of these functions are expected to be dropped, but rather integrated and re-envisioned in a way that is conducive to upholding the quality of the service and supporting the academic enterprise. I am happy to clarify more and elaborate into. I hope this gives you some idea that no function is being dropped that we are not going to do it, but rather is being reimagined how we can for the smaller campus footprint to deliver that.
And on the reassigned time and other changes as we go through this process, there isn't a drop dead date where we suddenly announce everything. This is a process, and I have asked all 5 deans to look at assigned time and to start figuring out ways that we can reduce or share or consolidate or combine. Whatever it is that we need to do, we have to do that. And so I understand that that's a hard move to make. But it's not something that's going to happen where there's going to be some date in the future where we're going to just announce every change. We're going to be rolling out changes over time over the next 18 months or so. It's not going to come out as every change at once. It's going to come out in smaller increments. And that's just the way we're going to have to work, because there aren't enough of us to do the work to make every single decision right now. So it's a process, and we're just going to have to kind of be patient with that process. But if there are specific problems, then I'm happy to talk about those specific problems.
This Gaden has the next. Oh, okay. Question. I thought she's going to get 2 microphones. That's it.
Okay, yeah. So this is a question that may not have an easy set of answers, but I just wanted to sort of stipulate that out from the get-go. I mean, nationally, if you look at the trends in enrollment and what's happening around higher education generally, the sector is, I think, overall under stress in ways that we've never really seen it before. I mean, higher education enrollments peaked some number of years ago. The pandemic certainly accelerated a lot of those trends. And if you look at where the growth is in higher education these days, it's really concentrated in adult education, job retraining, and online education. When you look at those kinds of factors, I think it's important to kind of consider how we're advocating as a system on behalf of those kinds of things. So, you know, in the kinds of circles that I travel in at the chancellor's office and in the system, academic technology, faculty development, one thing seems to be clear is that there is not a consistent vision or leadership happening at the central level in terms of how we plan. In fact, when you look at the trends like University Arizona State opening up a satellite office in Long Beach right across the street from the chancellor's office, as a direct shot across the bow.
That's right.
Right. I mean, I don't know that folks realize those kinds of things are happening right now. So at what point is Sacramento going to get real about the trends and the threats that are facing California higher ed overall? And what kinds of things can we be doing to advocate collectively, as well as within your folks' position at the leadership level, to actually affect the kinds of changes where we need to be making the investments in strategic growth areas for where higher education is actually headed, rather than trying to, I mean, not to say that the 18 to 20 something student demographic isn't an important segment of higher ed, but it is a declining segment of higher ed.
Right. Right. No, so important. What you're saying, Justin. I'll try to answer a couple of things and hand the mic off to Monir for some other thoughts. So it is really important that we notice that the UCs, the University of California system, has declined to participate in online degree completion programs. They're not doing them. They said no. So no UC is going to be doing online degree completion programs. We are crazy if we don't step into that market. Crazy. Not only as a campus, and we'll do that thinking because we seem to be leading a lot of these efforts right now, but the system needs to be thinking about how we step in to those markets in a more consistent, thoughtful, creative way, right? And the same with non-traditional students, older learners, veterans. There are lots of populations that we can go after. There are millions of students in the state of California who have some college, no degree. We need programs for those students collectively as a system and here at Sonoma State, where we can offer a kind of education that those same students might not get at a much larger campus. So there's opportunity all over the place in what you're talking about. So I appreciate you saying that.
Justin, it is a good question, and I want to share the perspective, the thought that I see that's happening CSU wide and throughout the country a little bit. Many of us probably remember from the mid 80s to late 80s, the boom in tech sector. So institutes like ITT came around, DeVry became very popular, high enrollment and so forth. They're all good, and for the time being, they serve well, but they are very short-sighted in the sense of investing in one workforce for the long term to be able to maintain the R&D we need so the future continues to grow. So we have to be careful about looking at something that may be short term. We can't ignore it, but we have to look at it. And that's what I think CSU is coming together when we have non-traditional students, how to make it easier for them. In fact, this week, CSU just released the RFP to the provost of responding to what classes that will make available online for inter-campus enrollment throughout the CSU. You don't have to be on site. So they are looking at it, they're planning on it. The other initiative that will be coming out soon in the next 2 to 3 weeks is a call for proposal from all CSU campuses, what they feel they could use some help for creating their classroom space ready for multimodality. So they're willing to invest. And I had the conversation yesterday with the system-wide folks, and they gave me heads up to be ready to be responding to that RFP, that if we don't have the classroom ready, to prepare proposal, to start thinking about how they may help us create it. So they are thinking. But the other aspect of it is the long term, that what I was talking about is, if you think about it statistically, nationally, there are about 35% of our fellow citizens have a college degree. What that means is 65 of them don't. And nowadays, to have a career, to be productive to the best of person's ability is almost impossible with a college degree. So without a college degree. So we need to focus on how do we bring more than that 35% that's coming into the college. We also have a statewide average of 60% high school A through G readiness in the state. In our region, as Karen mentioned, under 30%. We need to work toward creating an environment where we can increase the pipeline. So even though the total high school, college eligible population may decrease, but the pipeline can still increase by increasing readiness. And this is what the memo used, the partnership, the community interaction helps increasing those lines, and also investing in the future the way we like our state to operating.
And we did receive about $500,000 in funding for the graduation initiative, one-time funding, but it does allow us to think about some of the issues that you've raised in terms of stop outs and high DFW courses, things that would impact those groups of students that you mentioned, Justin.
We are almost out of time. I know we have one more question here. Okay, just making sure you know. Oh, good. Sorry.
Thank you. This is touching back on the reorganization conversation. You mentioned soliciting ideas from staff and faculty in terms of reorganization, shared services. Will there be an organized approach to collecting those ideas?
Yeah, we'll do a variety of measures to collect that feedback. So I would anticipate that there are kind of several different kinds of feedback. So we'll do a survey. We'll do some chats or forums. And I think conversation really, I will be promoting the idea that conversation needs to happen at the unit level as well, or at the school level, at the department level, at all those levels where people are, so that those ideas can then bubble up and be considered. And remember, there's a link for the academic master plan. If you go onto the website, there's a link there where you can throw in ideas as you think of them. So if you have an individual idea, great, but and put in a form, but tell a friend what that idea is. Tell a few friends, start a talk. Have a conversation at your unit level or at the department level or at the school level, so that we can begin to collect those thoughts. And we'll try to structure that after spring break. We'll try to structure and send some things out that identify those ways that you can participate. Yeah, thank you. That's a great question.
The next question comes from Zoom. The Chancellor's Office reallocation memo appears to be using targets that may have been generated too far in the past. Between system-wide reduction in enrollment and current volume of CSU-ready graduating high school students available to us, it would be their hope that these targets would be revised. Has there been any discussion with the Chancellor's Office about revising these target numbers?
Let me take this one. This actually is a very, very tricky question. You have to go back to the way that the CSU budget is determined for each of the campus. It's a large part of new money is actually based on the target enrollment dollar. So our budget, at least the state allocation as related to enrollment, is based on that target 8,600 FTEs. So that means in the past 4 years, the system continued to fund us at a high level, not a low level. If we imagine 4 years ago, at the first sign that Sonoma going to decline enrollment, they start to adjust to the actual number. Today, we have a $30 million structural deficit to deal with, not 14. So it's a kind of tricky question. In some way, we've been, I wouldn't say this, overfunded based on enrollment. Okay, so are there discussion right now about changing that? There's all kinds of discussion. Actually, President has been asked, we have been in very, very detailed discussion about what would be an appropriate funding model for the CSU campuses. And there's more than one, or actually more than a handful of presidents has said that, particularly for smaller size campuses such as Sonoma, East Bay, Chico, Monterey Bay, Channel Island, for example, Stanislaus, you need to look at what is the basic funding level that allow the campus to continue to be able to provide education. And then on top of that, you start to set target enrollment. Okay, but my hope is that if we get to that point, we're not doing that in like 1 year or two, because that impact will be so significant, it'll be pretty much impossible to deal with. So, but indeed, they are not going to do that. That's where this 5%, this XYZ plan start to form. Now, a very, very important factor here is right now the ongoing chancellor search. Okay, the Board of Trustees is searching for the new regularly appointed chancellor, and you have any opportunity to participate in the forum to express your concept or your suggestion, please do so. The next chancellor is going to be very, very critical. Not only internally, how a system is supposed to function, where the focus should be, how the funding model should be set up, but also how do we work with Sacramento in that Capitol building to determine the best way that the CSU system can be funded. And many years ago, many faculty, including myself, did not believe universities such as Arizona State University or other online or even for-profit university would have any impact on us. We're all wrong. They are offering a model of education that fits the needs of the students of this and next generation potentially. And if we don't wake up to that and be able to use what we are strong at, keep in mind, if the students are able to get something in terms of delivery, convenience, the way that they can get from those universities from us, I can assure you their preference is us, not them. Okay, nobody trusts for-profit university. But sometimes we do not give them a good alternative if we don't do our job. Another very, very big difference between this year and last year, for example, and this are not impact, is the number of our programs that are actually impacted. Impacted is telling the students we're closed, even though we're not. So the student and the parents, when they hear, oh, Sonoma is not taking, let's say, psychology, and I want to major in psychology, I'm not going to apply. Why bother? There's the other 22 I can choose from. Or even Arizona State is offering psychology online. I can stay at home and do all the things. I can get a degree in 4 years. Okay, so we have to be really, really clear about what we are dealing with. But I continue to be confident when we are able to properly market ourselves, provide equally easy way for students to get classes, be able to graduate, we are way more competitive, particularly after we tell a story. Okay, but I think the future, again, it's gonna be what Long Beach gonna do, the CSU Chancellor Office. How are we going to convince the state government and the legislators that we have a plan solid and we can continue to address the need for access to higher education in the state? We continue to be incredibly reasonable price. When you think about it, every time I go around, I say our annual tuition, $5,700 a year. Where in the world today can you get that kind of higher education? That's cheaper than many community colleges charge in other states. Okay, of course, there's their fee if you live here, but when you put it together, it's still what a bargain. The online university going to charge you 4 times that. So there's a lot we can do, but we certainly need a very strong voice from the chancellor office in Sacramento to make the case. And I'm absolutely been doing. And now, last week when we were there, the board trustee chair, the chancellor, 23 presidents, some provosts were all there, and a large number of students. We definitely show them how much we care about this issue. Yeah.
Good morning. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Julie Barnes. I'm the Director of Business and Operations for the School of Science and Tech. I spend half my time in the faculty world and half my time in the staff world. So today I want to advocate for staff. The reason I'm bringing my questions up is, firstly, I'm a loud voice. You just brought up loud voices. I'll own that one. Secondly, I really appreciate your forward thinking for future planning multi-year. However, in my manager world, in 60 days, I have 6 people walking off the job. I need to advocate for the people that are left, and we need to know what's going to happen a little sooner in the business side of things. I understand the academic master plan is going to address a lot of issues and a lot of plans. That is framed work in my world around the pedagogy and the academic programs we're going to offer. It doesn't help the AC sitting in the office who's now running 2 departments, half a day in each one, and also telecommuting and balancing needs. What's the plan in the next 60 days so we have a smooth transition come June 1st for myself, staff, and the colleagues they're working with? Because quite frankly, and again, this goes to the loud voice, once you announce in public there's an early exit program or a volunteer separation incentive program, we got the ravens swirling our staff. The county and cities are picking off our people, okay? So I can't afford to lose anymore. And quite frankly, I'll be the first to tell you, Science and Tech has premium staff working for this university. They work with other colleagues that are premium. I can't afford to lose them because of a reciprocity agreement and they leave the university. I guess at the end of the day, what I'm hearing today is a lot of future plans. I need to know a little bit of a short term, how can we engage the staff? What come June 1st, when all the VSIP people have left, I don't hear any reassurances. And because I don't hear them, I don't have them to pass on to my staff.
Thanks, Julie. That's an important question. And I have 2 different answers to that. The first is that our budget officer in academic affairs, Mike Ogg, is convening a shared services task force to address exactly that question about what do we do in 60 days. So I know the AMs have been in conversation about that. And we'll be figuring, Mike will be initiating that meeting, that set of meetings that will help to figure out what we do. The other thing that I really need to say, though, is that we won't be doing things the way we've always done them. And I know Julie knows this as much as anybody else on campus. We have great staff. We have wonderful staff, and we want to keep the staff that we have. which means that we need to make things workable. We need to make workload reasonable, and we need to figure out different ways of doing it. We can't keep splitting people into 2 or 3 or 4, right? So that they're bouncing from one office to the next, to the next, to the next in the course of a day. That doesn't work. It's not going to work. We're going to have to do something different. We're going to have to find a different model of service to provide people. And we're going to have to get ready to think about how that looks from a user perspective and how it looks from a staff perspective, the provider of that service. So that's another place where we'll be soliciting ideas and thoughts about how we do that kind of shared service, how we have maybe one spot where people can go to ask questions rather than 5 spots where people can go to ask questions, because we only have 1 person instead of 5, or we only have 2 people instead of 8. And that really happened with the VSIP. Right? We lost 5 ASCs and ACs in the schools through the VSIP. So that means we can't put a staff person in every office, in every department office. We can't. So there are lots of creative ways we can think about that. Mike Ogg is going to be talking with the AMs and with a variety of other folks on ways to do that over this next time period, so that we can really have an answer to your question. And Julie, I don't have one today, but we are initiating a process by which we can get some answers for that question.
I actually wanted to commend Julie for recognizing how wonderful the staff are in science and technology. It's important for us to realize that every unit on campus will have wonderful staff. We have 24 coaches who delivered for the first time 11 teams. Every one of them played to the playoff. This is one of the campuses I have seen has the best clean bathrooms. Anyone you can walk in and you can use them. This is the campus we are taking pride of saying SSU is different among CSUs. If you look at its grounds, its trees, its buildings. So thank you for recognizing that throughout the campus, we have wonderful staff. We need to come together, put our heads together to do the best we can, what's fair, what's right for the staff and for our community as a collective.
Well, this is definitely a very, very different time. I mean, after all, we have not seen something like the pandemic in our history. And now we are just coming out of it, probably dealing with a lot of the impact that it had created. And every time I think about what we need to do, I'm very thankful that I'm not part of Metaverse, for example, or Twitter. Metaverse have let go 20,000 of their workforce, just like that. Imagine you have a $1 million mortgage that you're paying, because that's the only way you can get a house in San Jose. And now say, I'm sorry, you're out of here. Okay? Every day I'm thankful that we don't have to do that, and I do not want to do that. And that's why we have the voluntary program, because I think to give people the chance. Because I also do not want to do the alternative. And I explained this in the last meeting. Any person, if a pure bean counter would have looked at the $50 million structural deficit and say, okay, simple, 80% come from personnel. And that's 12 million. Give me a list by seniority, and I'll start to cut until I reach $12 million. And you will cut out involuntarily the people that we hire, we try so hard to hire and then train. And that's why I will try my best not to do that. Okay. So while we put together something, is certainly not the best, but it's really, I'm choosing among the worst scenario. And I really believe there's a future day we're gonna build back. I'm still hopeful. And I'm here really urging you, please, let's work together. I know it's difficult. It's never easy. But we got to, at some point, think about how we do things. If the procedure we have in place today require a person to go through 5 different pages of paperwork, meets 3 people, is it possible we can actually cut it down to 1 piece of paper, 1 person, done? We got to think along the line to see how we can actually cut down the need of human time to deal with every single thing we have to do. This is time to do that kind of thinking. So I think I think Provost will continue to work. And please, if there's any specific difficulty, we definitely would like to know, and we definitely try to see what we can do. Okay.
Okay, I have a Zoom question.
Mhm.
What recruitment efforts is SSU making for out-of-state students, in particular states that participate in WUI?
Oh, great question. Thanks. Yeah, so WUI is the Western Undergraduate Exchange. It is a program run out of WICHE. I don't make this stuff up, which is the consortium of higher education for the Western states. And it allows students to move between states to institutions at 150% of tuition. So student from Idaho or from Hawaii can come to Sonoma State and pay 150% rather than 3 times the tuition for out-of-state students. So it is a real deal, especially considering that our tuition rate is so low compared to other states. So other states, students are paying much more for tuition than we are at the CSU. And so it's a good deal. So we actually are, for the first time this year, this fall, we saw an increase in the number of students from out of state coming to Sonoma State. And we're back to pre-pandemic levels. Now, pre-pandemic levels are not high. We were never a big draw. It's like 1%, maybe less of our total student population is coming from out of state. We need to increase that. And so Elias and his team are working to reach out. We purchase names of out-of-state students who meet certain parameters and therefore are more likely to come to Sonoma State, and have been reaching out to those students pretty aggressively, constantly, to encourage them to consider Sonoma State. The other thing that is the real positive is that we have developed a scholarship plan for those students. And so we're providing scholarships that help them to come from out of state, live on campus, pay, not only tuition, but also for housing, and live in our housing because we want to fill up our housing. That we're hoping will have an even larger impact. So we'd like to grow out of state enrollment over the next several years, as well as international enrollment. And so it's a slow process. The CSUs in general don't recruit heavily, with the exception of Cal Poly SLO, a lot of students from out of state. But that is an area where we can start to compete, especially in the Western states, where students are can more easily get to us. It's such a big area. So we are working on exactly that. And the WUI membership that we started in 2018 certainly is bringing more out-of-state students to Sonoma State.
Ian, before you take the next question, I think something that Karen didn't mention is anybody who knows have out-of-state friends, family, and so forth. Karen has $5,000 scholarship for each of them who signs onto the campus for the first year. So get the word out.
Hi, Julie's comments kind of made me wonder how or whether you're planning to empower people like her to make decisions for her own division, what tools are kind of being given, or, you know, in this position, we've got 90 days to basically reorg your area. How are people who are going to be directly affected being empowered to help make those decisions?
Yeah, so that's the group that MyGog is establishing. That shared services group is intended to do exactly that. We know, Julie's always going to speak up, and she's going to have ideas. But other people need to be empowered and encouraged to really think creatively and to plan and to participate and have agency in this process of change. So Mike will be soliciting those ideas and helping to encourage people and perhaps providing some tools and some training along the way on a budget and how budgets work and what organizational structures are looking like. And remember, we do have that space and technology group in the academic master plan and also the academic support services working group that are going to be starting in the fall. And one of the things we're finding is that we're really able to bring some new strategies, some new readings, some new models into those groups to help people learn more. So great question.
Good morning. My name is Alonso, and I'm part of the landscape department. One of the things that we see, that I would like to express is that a student's first impression is the landscape, the structure. Well, we're part of it, and I think we're part of the facilities are getting hurt every year. Since I started, I've been hearing the same thing about budgets. It changes a little bit, but I think right now with the COVID, with the fires, we're seeing it all, and we're not afraid to come to work. We're always been there, and we're gonna be there until we retire, until you leave. One of the things that I want to express is you're looking for solutions. I think we got property. We got property selling up north, and we got property selling up south. Is that a solution for us to incorporate it or to be put it up there to sell, to fix this budget problems? And the other thing, parking, it's a revenue. Is that a solution for the students to come here? Because every time I hear a student is they ask me a question if we have to pay for parking. And I say, yes, we do have to pay for parking. Even us as faculty, they have to pay for parking. Is that a solution for them to maybe erase it and not charge them to come here to Sonoma State?
So thank you very much. And we appreciate what every day you all do. The campus do look beautiful. As I mentioned earlier, this is one of the most beautiful campus. We have 7,000 trees. And every time a wind comes, leaves all over, branches all over, by the time I get to the campus, it's all clean, all in shape. And so we really appreciate it. I think the idea that you are throwing out at trying to find ways of solving our long-term challenge is what we need to bring everything to the table. As far as parking situation, each of these units are independently self-supported. It requires maintenance and so forth. So we do have to charge some. And of the 23 CSU campuses, I think Neil may know more, we are the cheapest, lowest cost per day for parking. And we provide plenty of parking spaces. Most campuses, parking permit is a hunting license. You have to go around and looking for one, so you have that license. On our campus, it's not only plenty, but it's also close by. And so that's what the phase pays for it. As far as disposing of any asset, remember the president mentioned, we all are talking about, this is a base reduction that needed. It's an ongoing cost until we can bring our revenues. Disposing of asset brings you one-time cash infusion. It does not solve your permanent problem. Nevertheless, we are looking for ways how we can monetize those assets, whichever way best, to help us either short-term or long-term. But good thought. Thank you.
I want to thank you, Alfonso. I talk to him quite frequently, and I hope I have expressed enough appreciation of what you and all the landscape staff have been doing. It is truly a beautiful campus, and I take pictures all the time to enjoy and share the image of Sonoma State with a lot of friends. I do want to encourage everybody, if you see any possibility, please feel free to share with us. Okay, we will take a look at it, because right now I'm really wanting to see all possibility, but some will be workable, some will not, and some we have to really put into a long-term thinking what is best for the university. I think those are the things that we do want to encourage you to do. And I think we are running out of time. Let me assure you, we have a group of leaders of this campus, all have the heart in the right places. Very good intention. We all try to get us through this. And I want you to know that that's what we're working on, and that we intend to continue. We will continue to be transparent, open for suggestions, and we'll continue to share every relevant information, piece of information, whenever they are available, and we will let you know. But I really need all of us to work together. This is too good a university to let it slide. And I know it's difficult, but I think the market will start to turn. We absolutely need to be ready for it, and we're doing a lot of things trying to capture that. And we'll continue to bring update. I am looking forward to the day that in the next following forums that I can bring in all the good news, and we start to do something totally opposite of what we are doing now. So I again thank you, and hang in there. We'll listen. We'll see what we can do to get us through this period of time. And trust me, we have a lot of friends and supporters out there in the community. They're all gonna count on us. Okay. Thank you very much, and appreciate all the people who come in on Zoom. Thank you. Thank you very much.